From the very minute we are conceived, we begin absorbing the world around us. Even in our mother's womb, as a fetus during pregnancy, we learn. Once we are born, we allow ourselves to become programmed. We do this consciously and unconsciously. We do it for the sake of attaining love, acceptance and pleasure, and we do it for the sake of avoiding fear, rejection, and pain. We do it to be accepted by society. We allow ourselves to become conditioned. We become A4. We start to think, feel and act in the proverbial box. And then, after years upon years of thinking certain thoughts over and over again, looking at ourselves and our world from the programmed, conditioned, socialized perspective, we get stuck. We create an identity. We create a memorized state of being which we emphatically declare as me, mine, myself. We form a sense of self, and a sense of the world. We identify, we value, and we defend this self-concept and world concept. We identify, value and defend this self-concept as if it were the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We give it our allegiance, our loyalty. We become our own prisoner and prison guard. Our thoughts and feelings merge with our awareness. An identity is formed. This infinite being of light that we are, begins to adopt a limited, victimized state of being. We forget who we really are. We are infinite and eternal beings of light playing the human game. We forget how powerful we really are, and we tend to shoot any messenger that comes to remind us of our greatness. Don't you see? What you think you are, what you have been told you are, is not what you really are. What you think you are, what you have been told you are, is very, very different from what you really are. What you think you are, what you have been told you are, is what you have been programmed and conditioned to believe about yourself and your world. You are simply operating a program that is composed of thoughts and emotions that have been identified with. They have been identified with because these thoughts and feelings appear to be occurring inside us. They are felt seemingly inside a body that seems to define us. Our senses give us that illusion of separation and boundary. Yet, thoughts and emotions are simply energies. Thoughts and emotions are simply energetic phenomena that doesn't belong to us personally, but instead is part of the vast, unified energetic field that we call the universe. They are simply phenomena passing through our field of awareness, like that cat that you just saw, or that dog passing by, or the wind, or the traffic in the streets. But we choose to identify with certain thoughts and feelings, and this creates a false sense of self, a limited self. The attachment and resistance to certain thoughts and feelings creates a sense of self. The thoughts and feelings we choose to attach or resist are selected by us based on our programming, our conditioning, based on what we learned was pain and pleasure in our particular environment. The attachment and resistance to certain thoughts and feelings creates a sense of self. The ego is that sensation of a limited, separated self, a sensation that is created by the vehicle we call our body. It is simply a sensation, a persistent illusion of a separate self. The ego is not bad, it is simply unconscious, asleep to the true reality of life. This limited, separated sense of self is controlled by all sorts of forces, literally, manipulated, enslaved. The very same political social economic structures that programmed us also end up controlling us. That control is made possible precisely because of the very identities we have formed for ourselves, the identities we defend and identify with as me, my, and mine. That is because those identities are based in those same political social economic structures that control us, instructed by those very same political social economic structures that program and condition us. It is simply a program. It is not just how life is. It is, instead, a man-made program, a control program. Furthermore, quite often, this programmed limited sense of self fights against the natural flow of life, whenever that flow is in contrast with the programming, the conditioning. Life itself is not programmed, it is not conditioned, but we are. When life moves in a way that the program doesn't account for, we feel fearful, threatened. When our program is threatened, we feel threatened, because we have identified with the program, and this is what then creates suffering and conflict, scarcity and limitation. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can be free. You can detach from this identification, and rediscover the infinite, eternal, powerful being of light that you are. You can drop the program, drop the conditioning. You can awaken. That is all it takes. For once you drop the program, the conditioning, You simply find what has always been there, silently waiting for you, what you really are, unlimited, sovereign, a creator being of light.
Freedom, liberation. This must be the aim of man. To become free, to be liberated from slavery. This is what a man ought to strive for when he becomes even a little conscious of his position. There is nothing else for him, and nothing else is possible so long as he remains a slave both inwardly and outwardly. But he cannot cease to be a slave outwardly while he remains a slave inwardly. Therefore, in order to become free, man must gain inner freedom. The first reason for man's inner slavery is his ignorance, and above all, his ignorance of himself. Without self-knowledge, without understanding the working and functions of his machine, man cannot be free, he cannot govern himself, and he will always remain a slave, and the plaything of the forces acting upon him. This is why in all ancient teachings the first demand at the beginning of the way to liberation was, know thyself. There are 1,000 things which prevent a man from awakening, which keep him in the power of his dreams. In order to act consciously with the intention of awakening, it is necessary to know the nature of the forces which keep man in a state of sleep. First of all, it must be realized that the sleep in which man exists is not normal but hypnotic sleep. Man is hypnotized, and this hypnotic state is continually maintained and strengthened in him. One would think that there are forces for whom it is useful and profitable to keep man in a hypnotic state and prevent him from seeing the truth and understanding his position.
Until the day that you are free, awakened, liberated from the conditioning and programming of society, you shall follow your program, your conditioning. You remain a slave to it. You remain unable to think greater than how you feel. You remain unable to see greater than how you think. Unconscious, running on automatic. When certain triggers fire, you find yourself thinking, feeling and doing the same things over and over again. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can be free, liberated. You can choose freedom, for it is your divine heritage. It is who you really are, a sovereign, creator being. Yet, so many people struggle with their programming, with their conditioning. They struggle to create a new destiny for themselves, but they find themselves unable to overcome the past memory of who they feel they are. It seems the memory has been deeply buried even into their cellular structure. Many give up hope, but it doesn't have to be that way. In the area of abundance, one of the programs that we have been conditioned with is the abundance only comes from money program, and the hard work and struggle program. The abundance only comes from money program makes us believe that only currency can give us what we require in life. Currency is just a piece of paper. It is simply a record of value exchange. Yet this belief system has elevated currency into a godlike status. We believe we are powerless without currency. Yet, a piece of paper cannot create. Abundance comes from life itself, and life is infinite. Abundance comes from you yourself, not from money. Money is simply an exchange tool. The hard work and struggle program makes us believe that we have to earn our right to live, and we have to struggle for it. It tells us that we must struggle to get a few pieces of paper, currency, and struggle to make them last until our next paycheck, until we get some more pieces of paper. Again, there is nothing wrong with money, when it is placed in its rightful place as a means of exchange of certain kinds of value. However, when it is manipulated into a system of belief and structure that requires and enforces struggle and scarcity, then that system serves only the purpose of societal control through the creation of false scarcity. This false belief system that has now become institutionalized worldwide is actually creating false scarcity and economic oppression. But it doesn't have to be that way. You are an infinite being of light, playing the human game. You are made in the image and likeness of the Creator. You are literally a co-creator, a sovereign, creator being. You are simply a sleeping Buddha, a sleeping Christ. Becoming an awakened Buddha, an awakened Christ, is your built-in heritage. Everyone, every single human being, is a being of light, a creator being, on a path to awakening to their true nature. Abundance is created automatically through you and by you. All the events of your life are being created out of your belief systems, automatically as you breathe. As automatically as you think and feel and speak, life is automatically created. You are a creator being, a co-creator with the universe. When you believe, speak, feel and act according to the abundance only comes from money program, and the hard work and struggle program, life is automatically created that way, by you. We are creating this reality, individually and collectively. When you no longer believe, speak, feel and act according to the abundance only comes from money lie, and the hard work and struggle lie, life automatically changes. A new society emerges. Old limiting financial systems collapse and give way to new ones that are in line with the new belief systems. You are a creator being. You are always creating. You can never not create.
The apparent freedom and self-assertion of our personal being to which we are so profoundly attached, conceal a most pitiable subjection to 1,000 suggestions, impulsions, forces which we have made extraneous to your little person. Our ego, boasting of freedom, is at every moment the slave, toy and puppet of countless beings, powers, forces, influences in universal nature. All life is the play of universal forces. The individual gives a personal form to these universal forces, but he can choose whether he shall respond or not to the action of a particular force. Only most people do not really choose. They indulge the play of the forces. Your illnesses, depressions, etc. are the repeated play of such forces. It is only when one can make oneself free of them that one can be the true person and have a true life, but one can be free only by living in the divine.
Understand that money tends to come to you after you have put time and effort into that model of money creation, because you expect it to come to you that way. You were given that expectation practically from birth, and most likely informed early on by those around you that the only way to make money is to work hard for it, and they of course were given that belief by the people who raised them, who gained it from their forebears, and so on. In truth, it did not come from them, and most assuredly, did not come from their higher selves. It came from a particular socio-economic paradigm set up to imprison, in quotes, working people, a label that expresses what you are supposedly worth or, in quotes, good for, while also expressing what you, in quotes, deserve, by describing the economic role you play. And above that social and economic paradigm, that model of how life should run, was an elite group that decided that human beings were worth little more than to live their lives as worker drones, a role just barely elevated above the slave races. Uprisings would be unnecessary for the vast majority, because the actual label of slave had been given to someone else, and clearly, you were not one of those, and yet, you were not free. You were imprisoned in a consciousness which said that money was hard to come by, that you had to work hard for it, or else starve and be homeless and ashamed. It stated that this was the only reality on this planet, that you were lucky to have been given so much by your rulers and protectors, and that to consider them unjust was to be suspiciously disloyal to the group ethic they had designed for you, and which was your only home. You would also be, in that moment of clarity, intentionally setting yourself outside the established norm, and labeling yourself a misfit, or worse, too lazy to conform and work hard and do your part like everyone else. And so you grew up feeling that, as someone not born into big money, struggle was necessary before any real wealth could be achieved, and that even then, a few mistakes or unfortunate events while you were investing or building your business, career, or job skills could mean that once again, you were out in the cold on one level or another, and had to start over, or dig your way out of debt. This is a punishment-reward system that holds billions in its grip, though that grip loosens more with each passing day as more people awaken. That system has in fact been imploding and disintegrating for some time. Awakening and learning the truth, which is, that you have always had and will always have the power to create abundance on any level in your life, in any form that you wish. But you must consciously carry the vibration of that reality as your reality, and release forever the idea, the vibration, that money equals struggle. In fact, the idea, feelings, and actions of struggle and hard work do not create money, they repel it. Your higher self is bigger than this, so much bigger, dear ones, that we can hardly calculate it, for you grow taller and more powerful by the moment. 3 are the dwellings of the sons and daughters of man, thought, feeling and body. When the 3 become one, you will command this mountain to move, and the mountain will move. Understand here, that everything you see and experience, is made of energy. The atom, the basic unit of construction of your world, is 99.999999% space. Solidity is an illusion produced by the forces within the subatomic energy units that create our reality. Your physical reality is literally and scientifically a field of quantum energy, energy that pulsates in and out of nothingness, billions of times a second. producing an illusion of solidity. This energy absolutely and totally responds to consciousness. Literally, your thoughts and emotions co-create your reality. You are creator beings of light, playing the human game. You have within you the same power that creates worlds, universes. You are made in the image and likeness of the Creator. You have simply been programmed and conditioned to use that infinite power against yourself. But that need not be.
Thank you for having watched this video. This video is part of the New Money Revolution video series, which takes you through the consciousness revolution and the monetary revolution we need to undergo to finally enjoy true freedom and abundance, true wealth, both personally as individuals and globally as the united citizens of Earth, in ways that are harmonious and healing to the planet and the environment. This series has 12 videos in total. Please make sure you watch all of them, in the right order. Thank you.
Please share these videos as far and as wide as possible. This is a consciousness revolution. First and foremost, it is a change of mind and a change of heart. And it only works when the idea spreads far and wide. The more you share these videos, the more this new reality manifests. This is your revolution, and your participation is very important. We need at least 33 million people to watch these videos for them to reach a tipping point, critical mass, whereby these ideas begin to take a life of their own in the collective consciousness of Earth. So please do share them as much as possible, everywhere you can think of sharing them, and feel free to download your own copy, too, for offline viewing and safekeeping. Thank you.
Please help us translate the subtitles and captions for these videos into other languages. It is very easy to do, using YouTube's community translation page. We have already added the English subtitles and captions to these videos. So all you have to do is type in the translated words and the subtitles and captions, and YouTube will automatically handle all the technical stuff. It is all very easy. Simply translate the words. We have provided the translation link below in the video description. Thank you.
All these videos have been subtitled with closed captions. This makes it easier for you to follow along. To see the subtitles, please click on the CC button on the video. As more people translate these videos, the subtitles will become available in multiple languages.
To complement these videos and launch you into rapid success and a deeper understanding of the new Earth consciousness, we also have the following free, illustrated, multimedia PDFs for you. To download yours free, simply click on the Download Now Free button, and you will have instant access to them.
And if you wish to master these concepts in a fast, easy and entertaining yet enlightening way, have a look at our courses. We have 38 courses and growing, some of which are free, and some of which come with a free trial. They literally are mind-blowing, yet effective and practically useful in your life today. To start your free trial, simply click on the free trial button, and you will have instant access to them.
If you haven't watched the rest of the videos in this series, please go ahead now, and remember to share them. Thank you very much for your time, and we wish you a very great day.